Go.
Welcome to the Ward E Council debate, brought to you by the Hudson Media Group. My name is Al Sullivan. I'm the senior staff writer for the Hudson Reporter. We have 4 candidates who will be answering questions. That includes James Solomon, of course, Nick Grillo, Rebecca Symes, and Jake Hudnut. Okay, they will give an introduction of 2 minutes, and then we'll go into the questions. We'll start with James.
So I want to thank Pat and Hudson Media Group for having us here tonight. I want to thank Al for moderating, and I want to thank the other candidates. As a political science professor, it's exciting in this act of democracy in a debate. And I was watching the 2016 Republican debates the other day, and I'm certain this one will be more substantive and thoughtful. So I'm really excited to do this. Again, my name is James Solomon, and the reason that I'm running is because fundamentally I believe that Jersey City can do better. Right? We can do better than 30 long-term tax breaks that have been given out over the last 4 years. We can do better than failing to plan for 15,000 new residents in downtown projected in just the next 5 to 10 years. And we can do better than our progress on pedestrian safety, where over 100 people were hit in downtown alone last year. But the question before you tonight is not just who has a vision, but who can deliver on those results. And I believe that my experience makes me the most qualified candidate on the stage tonight. I have worked in city government for Boston, designing pothole repair programs and snow removal. I worked in Newark designing performance management programs, all the gritty work about how you make government deliver for people. But I've also taken on powerful interests in Jersey City, a leader in the Evict Trump Kushner movement that got a 30-year tax break denied to Jared Kushner, Donald Trump's son-in-law. So tonight, I'm asking for your support and for your vote, and I'm very excited for us to engage in a very lively debate.
Just hold on 1 second. I need to reset the timer. Okay, Nick, might as well just keep it short.
Yep.
Because I have no way of controlling.
No problem. So good evening, everyone. My name is Nick Grillo. I am running for Ward E Council. I want to thank, of course, Pat and Al for moderating, and of course our other candidates for joining us here tonight to discuss some of the issues going on in Jersey City. Jersey City is my hometown, and I have deep roots in the community. I am the only candidate that witnessed the progress that has been made here in Jersey City, all the positive changes that have come about in the past couple of years. I am very active in Holy Rosary Church. I've run La Festa Italiana, which is everyone's favorite Italian festival on 6th Street in downtown Jersey City, for 18 years now. I'm a small business owner. I own a funeral home, and I've been a funeral director in Jersey City for the past 12 years. I also respect the fact that this position is a municipal job that requires me to be responsive to my constituents. It's not something I'm doing to further myself politically. It's just something I want to do because I love Jersey City and I'm from Jersey City. So I look forward to serving the people of downtown Ward E, and I hope that we can continue the progress that has been made all of these years.
Thank you very much. Rebecca?
So passing the laws that are going to shape the future of Jersey City is serious business. I'm running because I have a plan to address the big issues of affordability, climate change, supporting our schools. And with these major issues at stake, among many others, it's important that residents trust their government and have faith in its leadership. I'm the only candidate that has a plan to make government more accountable to people. I've suggested tangible reforms that will give every resident a say when it comes to development, how our tax dollars are spent, and even taking money out of local politics. Now, I have a prediction for tonight's debate. My opponents are largely going to stand for the same things like more affordable housing, better tax abatement policy, and safer streets. But none of them are going to have the same qualifications and experience that I do to be an effective council member for you. I've got the right experience. For more than 13 years, I've focused my personal and professional pursuits on the complicated question of how government can shape communities. I've worked as a nonprofit tenant attorney, fighting alongside community organizers for better other local reforms. I've worked for a U.S. Senator on the ground in communities trying to get the federal government to work better for municipalities and real people. And I even have private sector experience. I was general counsel for a company that invests in residential real estate. And even though our company didn't build or develop property, I learned a lot about land use law and zoning and other crucial topics for local city council representatives to know. So I'll conclude by saying, I care a lot deeply about Jersey City. And even when I was in the private sector, I kept one foot in affordable housing by building a nonprofit here in Jersey City to help people with issues related to their affordable housing. We're on target to help over 2,000 residents this year alone. So I've been an active member of this community, contributing not as a campaign strategy, but because it's been a way of life for me. That's why my friends and neighbors, people who know me, are not surprised that I quit my job to devote myself to a full-time return to public service.
Okay.
I have a long-standing demonstrated commitment to public service and the issues I raise in my platform. That's why I'm running for city council.
Jake, it's your turn.
Thank you, Al. I also want to thank Pat and everybody at the Hudson Media Group for hosting this important debate. This is by far the most exciting time to live in downtown Jersey City. The downtown Jersey City of today is not the downtown Jersey City that it was when my uncle graduated from St. Peter's Prep in the early 1960s. One only has to stand in the pedestrian plaza for a minute to know that that's true. Also, the New York Times has recently called one of our pizzerias the best pizza in the area. Our parks are amazing, and as the owner of a four-month puppy, I appreciate our parks and dog runs downtown now more than ever. We're also very blessed that there are 4 progressive candidates running for this seat that all basically share progressive values. But let's be honest, Jersey City has serious challenges. There are developers who are stealing downtown out from underneath of all of us. We have an abatement process that has ballooned the past 4 years, and it's starving our public schools. We haven't had a police chief in 3 months, and the ties between the community and the police in the worst and most hard-hit areas of Jersey City are only getting worse. Also, Port Authority reform affects downtown more than any other place in the Port Authority's area. We have 3 downtown stops in Port Authority alone. What we need is somebody with a backbone who has spent their whole life fighting for other people. I've spent my life standing up to the system. I put myself through law school. When I graduated law school, I opened my own law firm on Newark Avenue downtown. I went on to become a Jersey City public defender, where I gave voice to those who couldn't afford to hire counsel. And I stood up to police misconduct and overzealous prosecution. I've been in Jersey City 12 years, and in that time, I've also fought in the streets, campaign managing progressive Board of Education candidates, taking on the system, and successfully electing those progressive Board of Education candidates. I'm excited to talk to you voters tonight to share my platform and my ideals and let you know that I am the candidate that is ready on day 1 next year to move downtown forward. Thank you.
Thank you. That was pretty good. I'm going to ask the first of the questions, and then we'll just start with Nick. We'll alternate all the way through. Many people move toward E because of its unique neighborhoods. You have Grove Street, you have Van Voorst, you have Hamilton Park, Paulus Hook, etc. But there's pressure for development all around it. How much development is tolerable, and how much threatens these neighborhoods, and what would you do about it?
I think each of those neighborhoods still have their unique characteristics about them, no matter how you slice it. And development is necessary. Downtown, again, 25 years ago when I was growing up down there as a kid, it wasn't quite this nice. You couldn't go to Hamilton Park and play as a kid because there were needles or there was broken glass everywhere. It wasn't a safe place to be. So development began to occur on the waterfront, and gradually new residents came, and the development further spread more and towards the ward. What I think is important is that our zoning requirements are strict enough where we prevent larger buildings from opening up in some of these neighborhoods where it'll neutralize those characteristics. So I think it's very important that we just make sure our zoning requirements will give the the buildings that have the same kind of symmetry to them, so that we're not overbuilding in some of these quaint neighborhoods where you have 2- and 3-story homes.
Thank you. Rebecca, the same question.
So the fact that there's been a lot of growth and development in Jersey City is no secret. I think the most important function of a city besides public safety is its planning department. We only have one shot to get this right. That's why I've recommended a plan to properly fund the planning department so it has the resources it needs to do long-range, large-scale planning. So the Department of Housing, Economic Development, and Commerce, in which planning and zoning sit, and historic preservation as well, actually through its regular course of actions brings in the most money of any city department. And yet those funds are just put into the general fund to fund the budget. I think that we should direct a portion of those funds into a non-discretionary fund to make sure that our zoning officers and enforcement mechanisms, our historic preservation team, and our planners have the resources they need to grow Jersey City in a smart way, and also get the community input that they need to understand what it is that we really want from our future development.
Thank you. Jake, it's your turn.
Thank you, Al. I stand for what I call responsible development. Responsible development is two things. One, it's development that fits within the character of the neighborhood. I am a criminal defense lawyer by trade, but I did have the opportunity once to represent a young family that moved to Jersey City and built on a vacant lot on 5th Street. We went before the zoning board and we were sent to the Village Neighborhood Association. We got great feedback, the plans were amended, and that development application went through smoothly. Our neighborhood associations are very important when it comes to development, and they're sort of the gatekeeper if a development project doesn't fit the character of the neighborhood. As councilman, I would continue to encourage development applications to have to go through the neighborhood associations. Secondly, responsible development, I want to stand against special interest. I think we need to acknowledge that there are developers who have channeled and funneled hundreds of thousands of dollars to a secret political action committee affiliated with Steve Fulop, as well as to the Jersey City Democratic Organization itself. I'm not afraid to talk about that. I'm not afraid to acknowledge that. I'm not running with those developers' support, and I'm proud of that because I want to be an independent voice for my neighbors when I am the Ward E councilman. So when you ask about development, I've very consistently, since I announced on June 1, been talking about responsible development. Not anti-development, but responsible development, and that's what I'm going to fight for next year as councilman.
Thank you. James?
Al?
Yes.
We are giving away the store. So development can be great, right? Development is the future of a well-planned downtown Jersey City that's livable, that parents are going to want to raise their kids in, that is a source of opportunity with transit connections. And we have simply, over the last 10 years and longer than that, not developed with enough thoughtfulness and enough long-term thinking. So a couple examples. We give away the store in tax abatements. Right? I've talked about as the campaign, the Oakman condominiums. In 2014, received a tax break of 20 years, significantly greater than the tax breaks in the surrounding neighborhood. They have sold 1-bedroom, 1-bathrooms for nearly $1 million, 2-bedroom, 2-bathrooms for 1.3. Second thing is with redevelopment plans. Now, those are complicated, the reform process is difficult, but fundamentally we have allowed developers to gain significant return on investment, deliver minimal community benefits through these redevelopment plans. Those must be looked at and reformed. Last but not least, the zoning code. To give you an example, down in the Nick and I's neighborhood, the Village, a building was built on Marcella Street recently, full lot coverage, and they have not a single aspect of green infrastructure, of water retention. We live in a flood zone, right? That's the zoning code, and we need to do a significantly better job of ensuring that we don't allow for future development that doesn't meet the long-term needs of downtown, flooding just being one example.
Thank you very much. Okay, I'm going to jump to another question that's related because you all have touched on it. Abatements, and we have a budget of $600 million. It's been estimated it goes up $25 million a year. How do you sustain it, and where do you make cuts in the budget? And we'll start with Rebecca.
So I want to talk about tax abatements. The age of tax abatements for nothing is over in downtown Jersey City, as well it should be. From my perspective, the only reason a tax abatement is appropriate is that the community is getting a benefit, like a new school or investments in a resiliency park or investments in our infrastructure or transportation. There's no reason that we shouldn't be building buildings with affordable housing downtown. And so the role that tax abatements should play is as one of the tools that a city has to shape what's built, whether that's land that the city owns, tax abatement policy, or land use law, getting to say what can be built where. Those are the tools that the city has to decide what gets built where. And I think we should use those strategically to make sure that we get more of the things that we want in our downtown community.
Thank you. Jay?
Important question, Al. I think one of the things that I've been saying consistently since June 1st is that we need to make developers help us meet our needs. I've talked about it in two specific areas: sustainability, stormwater management, building green. During Hurricane Sandy, I lived at the time on Grove in York, and I watched my neighbors' cars float up Grove Street. I don't want to see that happen again, and I don't think development has taken that into account since 2012. Also with schools, you know, in New York, it's not uncommon for developers to build a public school as part of their development application, but we've only seen that happen once in Jersey City downtown, and only very recently. I think, you know, abatement reform is coming. I'm very proud to be running alongside Chris Gadsden, Ward B, who introduced legislation to bring abatements up to the same level as normal funding for public schools. And I think to say that if you were to run and say we're going to end all abatements, you're not being realistic. We can fix abatements by making the money the same as with regular taxes, and also recognizing that developers are going to build here, and we're going to make them work for it, and we're going to make them help us meet our needs. And that's where I see abatement going in the future.
Thank you. James?
Rebecca, in her answer, said that the era of abatements in downtown is over. And I'm reminded of the Ronald Reagan quote, "Trust but verify." Right? It's an election year. Everyone is promising that the era of abatements in downtown is over, and we have heard those promises before, right? But it's not just downtown, right? It is the rest of the city and the long-term fiscal health of Jersey City. So we have to subject every single abatement that comes before Jersey City to rigorous and strict cost-benefit analysis. Now that, I know people's eyes glaze over the moment they hear those terms, but fundamentally, we have not gotten good deals out of all the previous abatements that have been given. I believe that an abatement, as Jake and Rebecca both said, can be used to deliver real community benefits, but too often that becomes just a fig leaf over a giveaway to a powerful interest. So my commitment to you is to be completely and totally independent of the real estate industry in Jersey City. I have not accepted a donation from them. I'm sure we'll talk about that a little bit more tonight. But there is no one behind my campaign. There is nobody who secretly has a deal cut with me the moment I enter office. You can trust that I will reform abatements if I'm in office. I will work with the mayor and the council. But if we're unable to work together, we will organize. And we will ensure that we do not make the same mistakes, not just of the Healy administration, but of the last 4 years again.
Thank you. Nick?
Last but not least. Well, again, I go back to my days growing up downtown, where the waterfront was nothing. Newport Mall was the first building that was built there, and everything else was abandoned factories and marshlands. And these abatements were necessary. They were necessary tools to spur the development along the waterfront. I also feel that at this point, you know, we've exhausted them, but I think there are going to be situations when we need them, whether it's through public-private partnerships to build new schools. But I also feel that, you know, if we do need to use them, let's get more out of them, much like Jake said. Let's get money from them and use it to benefit our neighborhoods and our community. Very simple.
Thank you. That was concise. Jake,
Simple answers.
Now, you've touched on this also, so we should go into it. JC has a school problem in that there are not enough classrooms in certain parts of the city, and downtown is becoming one of those places. You mentioned private public partnerships similar to NJCU. Is that the answer? What would you do to help spur provide school more room?
Well, Al, I think when we talk about schools, you know, we have to talk about the substance of education as well as the infrastructure. I do hope we talk on the substance of education tonight and the positive upswing that the Jersey City Public Schools have had under the leadership of Dr. Lyles. And obviously, having been a campaign manager for Progressive Board of Education candidates, I'm very excited about that progress. Listen, you know, the cut in state aid out of Trenton this summer was frightening. and it needed a serious solution. Our mayor thought the solution was to send out a tweet within a couple hours. He said it was done. Turns out it wasn't done. That was a very hectic couple of weeks for the Board of Education. They were able to put a Band-Aid on the wound for now, but it's only going to get worse. I think when we talk about better funding our public schools, unfortunately, we can't look to Trenton. And again, we have to look to abatement reform. A third of downtown properties right now are not paying into our public schools. And we wonder why children are drinking out of plastic bottles rather than the water fountains. So I think we need to get aggressive about abatement reform, not to go back to that, but it can't be understated. And to the extent we can do private-public partnerships, yes, I would be for that. But I think we need to, pull ourselves up by the bootstraps and reform abatements and start filling the coffers of the public schools. I believe a fourth of our buildings are over 100 years old in Jersey City Public Schools. We have no long-term plan to start replacing those buildings once they're completely inoperable. And we're getting to that point. We're handing out bottled water instead of clean water fountains. So I'm committed to abatement reform. I am committed to filling the coffers of our public schools. And that's what I'll do next year.
James?
So, the school issue is personal for me. As some of you may know, my wife and I are expecting our first kid in about 3 weeks. So if I get a phone call and I rush off the debate stage, you will know what has happened. But, we're going to raise our child in Jersey City, attend the public schools, and this issue of space is incredibly concerning. PS 16 is at 35 kids to a classroom. All of us were at the Portofino meet and greet and heard from numerous parents about their concerns about school space and things of that nature. So we have to leverage the development process to build new schools because the state ain't doing it for us. Right? The SDA has no budget. They just built us a school that isn't even 50% full, so they're not going to be keen to build us another one. So we have to ensure that if we're going to allow for, say, 70 stories downtown by the waterfront, that includes a significant community give back. Schools would be one of the top ones that I would be looking for in any type of abatement that we would give out to get it back for our community. But again, we do not want downtown Jersey City to be a place where, people spend a few years and then move because of issues like school infrastructure. So we are going to fight incredibly hard to solve that problem.
Thank you. Nick?
Well, I have to echo a lot of my colleagues' words there because, I've knocked on couple thousand doors downtown, and that is a big issue that comes up. It's the overcrowding from people. There's actually people in the Newport area that are sending their children to school in Battery Park City. So that just goes to show that it's an overcrowding issue is what's at the root of our problem here. And I think to keep it very simple, there's not much open land left in downtown Jersey City. There's also no money from the school system to build new schools, or even the state for that matter. So we're going to have to invest in public-private partnerships with developers to build new schools downtown. Very simple, and that's probably the fastest way we'll be able to get it done as well.
Thank you. Rebecca?
We absolutely have to reform abatement policy to make sure that schools are getting their fair share of funding and treated the same way they would under typical property taxes. And there does have to be private-public partnerships to build new schools. We're seeing that happening in Jersey City. The Liberty Science Center, through a partnership with the JCRA in the city of Jersey City, is going to build a brand new state-of-the-art K through 12 STEM school that will be a public school. And that's what we want. We want the city using the resources it has to encourage development with outside partners of new schools. We saw that again at 100 Montgomery, where there's going to be an expansion of a public school there. There is a shortage of school desks in downtown. I think many of us have friends who have young families who, we're afraid that they're going to just leave Jersey City because there isn't school options for them. But I think that there's more that the City Council can do to support our public schools. There are things that the City Council does have control over that impact schools. Things like safety around schools during drop-off and pickup. Things like after-school programming that's funded through the Recreation Department. So we need to do a better job of communicating with the school district. I happen to serve in the library board with Dr. Lyles. I think that she's doing a great job steering our school district. And I want to make sure that we're giving her access to information, that she is a part of frequent communications with the planning department as well as the City Council and the mayor's office. So I want to open up the lines of communication and support them really in every way that we can.
That's all four of you. Okay. Next question. We'll go to James. Bike lanes and the restructuring of Grand Street.
Yes.
It's an issue for a lot of people, partly because people are concerned about safety. But there are also people who have complained about bikes on the street, and yet some people believe that they're not safe, on the sidewalks. Do you support the plan? And if not, how would you modify it to make it acceptable?
It's a great question. So I unequivocally support the vision, and I believe it is part of the key to building a long-term livable downtown Jersey City. Now, the vision is in the process of being developed, and of course there are going to be tweaks here and there, but overall it is exactly what our city needs. So let's look at some of the benefits. First, it provides protected bike lanes. That means bicyclists are significantly safer than when they bike in just a regular bike lane. It also moves them off the sidewalks where they brush past you when you're walking and onto the street where it is significantly safer. That encourages then more bicyclist communities. So if your road is crowded, if there's too many cars in the middle of your commute, then what we want to encourage is people to get out of their cars and onto bicycle lanes, and we do that with safety. Last but not least, I know there are reasonable concerns about access to the hospital, about schools. Every study on these bike lanes shows that they do not massively increase congestion. In fact, most of the time they decrease congestion, and they make our roads significantly smoother and the flow of traffic better. So I fully support the Grand Street vision, and I promise to partner with community members to ensure that we are all working together.
Thank you. Nick?
I think you'll hear similar answers from all of us up here about this. I absolutely support our bike lanes, and specifically to the Grand Street project. At first I was hesitant about it, but once I looked at the data and saw the information as far as how this could work and how it should work according to research, I became a believer, and I think that's important to everybody in Jersey City right now who especially is a critic of it, is to look up the information about it, look at the stats, and see the studies that have been done that show when you do these road diets and you put in protected bike lanes, how much of an improvement there is for everybody. And as far as bike lanes go across Ward E, I would like to see a more unified bike network where you don't have just painted lines on the street, because that's not really the safest way to do things. But I'd like to see us utilize protected bike lanes in a network in all the streets of downtown that it's physically possible to put them in, meaning the constraints on the size of the street is a big factor there. So 100% am I for improving our bike lanes and pedestrian safety.
Rebecca?
So one of the things that I love about the Grand Street redesign is the process. So the design hasn't been chosen yet. There's a suggestion of different tools that we can use to make Grand Street more safe. But what I like is that the city has gone out into the community different methods for calming traffic, protected bike lanes being one of them. And the reason this speaks to me so much is I was the president of a neighborhood association, the Harsmith Cove Neighborhood Association downtown. And when I was president, one of the things that would frustrate me is when those development projects would come to us, they'd often come to us at the last moment. So I have to disagree with Jake when he mentioned that the neighborhood associations are doing all the work of safeguarding us against inappropriate development, because there's too much work for the neighborhood associations to do on their own. That's why I've recommended that we have community-driven development by creating community board system where residents get meaningful say in the development process early on. We're going to have community boards with representation from small businesses, from the arts community, from school officials, nonprofit and religious leaders, and residents and homeowners. Because when those people have a seat at the table for development decisions about what's going to be built where, we're going to get more of the things we want, including safer streets like the Grand Street redesign, more green space, new schools, affordable housing, and more resilient buildings. So I like the Grand Street redesign because of the process. I think it's great, and I'm really excited to ride my own bike down those protected bike lanes someday soon.
Thank you. Jake?
Al, I'm about as pro-bike as you can get. I used to have an office in Journal Square, and I would city bike home. Only home because it was downhill. Uphill was up Newark Ave was a little too difficult for me. But in any event, and I think that we've taken too long to implement the complete streets that the City Council enacted in 2014. bike lanes aren't only good for bikers, they're good for people crossing the street. It is scientific, data-driven information that narrower lanes cause slower, more responsible driving. If we foster slower, more responsible driving, we will have less pedestrians struck. I believe in 2016, over 400 individuals were struck by cars in Jersey City. We need to do Grand Street, and we need to do it quickly, and we need to do it all over the city. You know, sometimes you can let too many cooks into the kitchen. Complete Streets is a national science that has been come up with. So are the recommendations that are similar by the National Association of City Transportation Officials. Wider crosswalks, timed lights. We don't have any of these things, and we're behind the curve, and people are getting hurt. We need to enact it, and we need to enact it fast. Community input is important, but if it's predominantly education, that this has worked all over the country, saving folks and reducing fatalities. And I just want to hop back to Rebecca. I think you would disagree with me that the neighborhood associations need a that developers need a gatekeeper, because you yourself worked for one of the most aggressive and politically connected developers in Jersey City, and your ELEC reports are fraught with contributions from contractors and planners. So clearly you do want to make it easier for developers to steal downtown out from underneath of us.
Okay.
Do I get a chance to respond?
Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, I think that's clearly a mischaracterization of what I'm fighting for. I actually want to give the community more power earlier in the process, because when I was the president of a neighborhood association, lawyers who were representing projects would come to our meetings a week before, 2 weeks before they were slated to show up on a zoning or a planning board agenda. And that's just not enough time for lay people. People are volunteering their time to be a watchdog for the community, to have a meaningful say about those plans. And so I want to put more power in people's hands by making it legally required that developers get that buy-in, and also make it have to happen earlier in the process.
Okay. Jake, since I gave her rebuttal, you must.
Sure. When I went before the Village Neighborhood Association for that young family, we did have a week to get back before the zoning board. But I personally pulled an all-nighter with the engineer, and we resubmitted those plans based on the community feedback. I didn't delay the process, and I incorporated every single piece of feedback that the folks at the Village Neighborhood Association gave us. And that's the kind of spirit I'll bring to the council. Having a week to get something done isn't going to scare me. I'll get it done, and I'll be a strong advocate.
But unfortunately, not every person who goes before the neighborhood association boards is like Jake. They're not going to hold up the process. They're just ticking that box that they went to that meeting.
Okay. All right. Next question. That starts with Nick. Okay. Reval, the dirty word. It's not even 4 letters. The reval is going to impact downtown heavily, along with the Heights. What can you do as a council person to help residents? There's people going to be hurt by this.
If you don't know this already, I give you answers as honestly as I can and without any fluff. The reval is an unfortunate reality of what has to happen downtown. And there is not much that I believe we can do, except for assisting seniors with applying for the senior freeze. There's not much more that can be done from that, but I think it's something that we can help residents work through. My family went through the last reval, and it was difficult for them back in 1987, 86. But they were able to work through it. Now, granted, the property values are a lot higher today. I think the only thing that we could do going forward, though, from there is to have the properties reassessed after the reval is established. So that will actually, because property value is going to lower once that reval hits. And then I would say let's have the city come in and reassess the properties on that lower value. But other than that, we can't phase in the payments. I know that that's an idea that's out there, but realistically, I don't believe we can do that. I'm not going to tell you that we can do that. I'm giving you the honest answer.
Rebecca?
So the reval is coming. I think that, unfortunately, the way that the state of New Jersey does revals is it leaves the power to do a reval up to the local municipalities. And unfortunately, we've seen that people have avoided doing it for 31 years. In order to change the way that revaluations are done, we'd have to make an amendment to the state constitution. That's not something that people on the city council can do, though, of course, If our constituents feel that we'd like to do a different model of property valuation, we can all work with our state elected officials to push for that. In terms of the immediate, how do we deal with this? It's making sure that people who live in Jersey City who can take advantage of programs to lessen the blow of the reval and the increased property taxes that people are going to have, making sure that people know about those programs. When I was president of the Neighborhood Association, the very first thing I did was reach out to the State Department of Taxation to bring an expert down to our meeting to give an introduction on what the Senior Freeze is. It's the property tax reimbursement program run by the state, and how people can apply for it. The city really has an obligation to make sure that the people who live here know about the benefits and services that are out there to help them. Beyond that, it's making sure that people have access to free and affordable legal services. I encourage anyone who receives a reval assessment that they disagree with to investigate whether they should, to really seriously consider appealing it. And there's, making sure there are resources available for people to learn about the appeal process. And now that's all I've got to say.
Jake?
Al, I get asked this question every night and weekend when I'm knocking on doors, and what I say to those folks and what I'd say to the folks at home is, the reval is a reality. As Rebecca said, the reval is coming. I've said that before. It kind of reminds me of season 1 Game of Thrones. Winter is coming. But what we can do is we can make it a teachable moment. There are 2 things we can learn from the reval at this moment. 1, remember it when you go into the voting booth and pick a mayor. The current mayor stalled this reval for 4 years for no other reason than self-interest, to protect his interest in his voting bloc and the interests of certain developers. Secondly, look to my opponents. Do they make false promises? Do they promise you a phase-in? Do they promise you reform at the state level? We have to be candid. This reval is coming. So I say there's 2 things to do going forward after we take those 2 things into consideration. 1, when you look at the 1989 reval, there was a lot of allegations of corruption and unfair assessment. We need to make sure that that doesn't happen this time. So far, we don't hear that, the rumblings of that. That's a good thing, but folks do need to know that there are avenues to appeal if they think that it did happen. And secondly, long-term, we can organize and pressure our local legislators to cause reform at the state level so that this doesn't happen again. But even though this reval is coming, I want folks to remember it when they go into the voting booth. Think about it while they're picking a mayor, and think about it while they're picking a downtown council person.
Thank you. James?
What we can do is everything in our power to take care of the people that this is going to hurt. And so I am proud that my campaign reached out to seniors to tell them about the senior tax freeze. But we didn't just, put out a notice. We actually went to their door and we knocked on it and we said, have you heard about this program? And we did more than that still. We translated key materials into Spanish, as well as had Spanish language speakers be the ones that knocked on the doors of many of downtown's residents. And what we found was that there was a huge section of downtown senior homeowners that hadn't heard about the senior freeze. Right? I talk about I met the Torres family. They've lived on 2nd Street for 45 years. Right? They had no idea that this program was something they were eligible for. So we got them all the information they needed, crucial pieces translated, right, so that they could take advantage and stay in downtown. That's the type of proactiveness that we need in a council person. And frankly, it's a failure of our city that they didn't do this in the past. Right? There is no reason why these seniors should have been paying more on their property taxes for, in some cases, decades. Right? All they had to do was knock on the door and tell them. Last but not least, we can't keep the reval separate from the long-term tax abatements that we've given out. As you're worrying about how much your tax bill is going to go up with the reval, you have to think about all the revenue the city has sacrificed with these long-term tax abatements. So I go back to the Oakland condominiums. In 2014, we gave it a 20-year tax break. Again, better than the surrounding neighborhoods. We lose $1 million in revenue, or we lost $1 million in revenue over the 16-17 budget because of that tax break. Right? That's just one example, and that's the type of reform that is going to drive down the budget in the future.
Just as a follow-up,
Yep.
since I can get away with this.
Please.
Hoboken proposed rolling
Reassessments.
reassessments. Would you propose something?
I have already proposed it. I
Okay.
believe we should take it out of the hands of politicians. What happens is every 5 years, the property is automatically reassessed 20% each year over the course of the city. A number of towns in New Jersey have adopted that program. And simply put, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. If we don't reform the process, 20 years from now, 30 years from now, we're going to see the same problem and the same lack of preparedness and lack of political courage. So I strongly believe in taking it out of the hands of politicians.
Nick, your position on that?
I'm laughing because I couldn't have said it any better myself.
Fine. All right.
Yeah, I mean, that's 100% what the problem was that got us to this point, and that's what we have to do going forward. Very simple.
And Rebecca?
I think we might be 4 for 4 here. I don't want to speak for Jake, but I agree.
Very good.
In this one instance, you can.
Okay.
And I know some southern counties in New Jersey, I believe it's Cumberland or Gloucester, have had similar success in doing it at the county level, and so I'd be in favor of that, yes.
So, yeah, why don't we go to intermission now, and then we'll return with more controversial questions. Thank you very much.
Burns Brothers Memorials, Monuments and Markers, 787 Tunley Avenue, Jersey City. Hudson County's only monument maker, serving all faiths and cemeteries. Design, studio, and large inventory on site. Cemetery inscriptions and custom orders welcome. Burns Brothers Memorials, Monuments and Markers, 787 Tunley Avenue, just south of Secaucus Road. Craftsmanship that will last for all eternity. Burns Brothers, Jersey City, Albert H. Hopper, North Arlington. Visit us on the net. Consumer Carpets, 3408 Kennedy Boulevard in the Jersey City Heights, your one-stop store for residential and commercial floor treatments, carpeting, linoleum, tiles, laminates, hardwood floors, area rugs, remnants, all major brands, all in stock. Free estimates, same-day installation. Consumer Carpets, it's savings, selection, installation. Credit cards and debit cards accepted. Financing available. Consumer Carpets, price to fit your budget, installation to fit your schedule. On the net at consumercarpets.com. Consumer Carpets, Jersey City, 201-792-2712.
Good Friend Self-Storage in North Bergen, New Jersey is a fully climate-controlled facility equipped with state-of-the-art security, packing supplies, a Refer Friend program, and multiple loading docks convenient for commercial use. Located just off of Route 3 at 4301 Tunley Avenue, Route 1 and 9. Call 201-867-2444 or visit us on the web today. Good Friend Self-Storage. Let us be your good friend.
Introducing the MyJCMC app, powered by Practice Unite. The free MyJCMC app puts the power of healthcare at your fingertips. Go to the concierge for access to referrals, scheduling, and appointments, see emergency room wait times, and get directions to Jersey City Medical Center health locations. Read the latest JCMC news through their social media feed, find a doctor, and more. The MyJCMC app. We belong to you.
It takes more than a state-of-the-art medical facility to make a great hospital. It takes a team of dedicated medical professionals. That's the Jersey City Medical Center, Hudson County's #1 hospital. Medical teams consisting of New Jersey's top doctors, Magnet Award-winning nurses, and accomplished hospital associates, all committed to your good health. That's what you have at the Jersey City Medical Center. Make Hudson County's #1 hospital your first choice. Visit us on the web at barnabashealth.org.
Meineke Car Care, conveniently located at 700 Tunley Avenue, Jersey City, half a mile north of County Road. Meineke, bumper-to-bumper car care. Brakes, exhaust, oil change, wheel alignments, batteries, CV joints, and so much more. First-rate service at a price you can afford. All major cards accepted. Apply for a Meineke card. Meineke, Jersey City. Stop by and let Sammy check your brakes for free.
Newport, the luxury waterfront community on the Hudson River, offers the quality of life you deserve in 10 high-rise rental towers with amenities such as the on-site Newport Path subway, light rail and ferry service, Newport Town Square, 3 playgrounds, dog run, upscale restaurants, retail giants like Sears, JCPenney, Macy's, and Target. Morton Williams Supermarket is just outside your front door. A health and fitness club, spa, skating rink, and medical facilities are also on site. NewportNJ.com. Enjoy the New York skyline from Newport Town Square. Manhattan is just one path stop away or quick ride through the Holland Tunnel. Nursery and private elementary schools all on site. 12-screen movie theater at the Newport Center Mall. Want to visit Newport? Stay at the Westin or Marriott Hotel. Go to NewportNJ.com for details. Newport has luxurious towers, great restaurants, shopping, New York skyline views, schools, playgrounds, a marina and yacht club, gym, spa, fine wine, fine living. It's incredible. It's you. NewportNJ.com. Newport. Live like you want.
Pinto Properties, Jersey City. Shaping the workplace with state-of-the-art office spaces that address your company desires. Building residences that define your home environment. Adjacent to all modes of transportation with on-site parking available. The right address, the right lease. Call 201-521-9000 or visit online at panapintoproperties.com. Panapinto Properties, building Jersey City for everyone.
Plaza Auto Body, 700 Tunley Avenue in Jersey City. Your local collision specialist. Body and fender repair. On-site oven-baked paintwork. Fiberglass repair experts. Custom and classic car restoration. All insurance is welcome. 24-hour towing available. Licensed by the state of New Jersey. Plaza Auto Body, 700 Tunley Avenue, 201-222-3050. Plaza Auto Body, your bumper-to-bumper buddy.
Rama Jewelers, located in the Lyndhurst Shopping Center at 413 Valley Brook Avenue, Lyndhurst. Come for all your jeweler needs at Rama Jewelers, where you will find a fine selection of necklaces, earrings, rings, and bracelets. Choose from one of our complete sets, our many signature items, or find the perfect engagement ring. Come on down. That's Rama Jewelers at 413 Valley Brook Ave, Lyndhurst. Call 201-939-5784 or visit us online today.
Burns Brothers Memorials, Monuments, and Markers, 787 Tunley Avenue, Jersey City. Hudson County's only monument maker, serving all faiths and cemeteries. Design, studio, and large inventory on site. Cemetery inscriptions and custom orders welcome. Burns Brothers Memorials, Monuments, and Markers, 787 Tunley Avenue, just south of Secaucus Road. Craftsmanship that will last for all eternity. Burns Brothers, Jersey City, Albert H. Hopper, North Arlington. Visit us on the net. Consumer Carpets, 3408 Kennedy Boulevard in the Jersey City Heights. Your one-stop store for residential and commercial floor treatments. Carpeting, linoleum, tiles, laminates, hardwood floors, area rugs, remnants. All major brands, all in stock. Free estimates, same-day installation. Consumer Carpets, it's savings, selection, installation. Credit cards and debit cards accepted. Financing available. Consumer Carpets, price to fit your budget, installation to fit your schedule. On the net at consumercarpets.com. Consumer Carpets, Jersey City, 201-792-2712.
Good Friend Self-Storage in North Bergen, New Jersey is a fully climate-controlled facility equipped with state-of-the-art security, packing supplies, a Refer a Friend program, and multiple loading docks convenient for commercial use. Located just off of Route 3 at 4301 Tunley Avenue, Route 1 and 9. Call 201-867-2444 or visit us on the web today. Good Friend Self-Storage. Let us be your good friend.
Introducing the MyJCMC app, powered by Practice Unite. The free MyJCMC app puts the power of healthcare at your fingertips. Go to the concierge for access to referrals, scheduling, and appointments, see emergency room wait times, and get directions to Jersey City Medical Center health locations. Read the latest JCMC news through their social media feed, find a doctor, and more. The MyJCMC app. We belong to you.
It takes more than a state-of-the-art medical facility to make a great hospital. It takes a team of dedicated medical professionals. That's the Jersey City Medical Center, Hudson County's #1 hospital. Medical teams consisting of New Jersey's top doctors, Magnet Award-winning nurses, and accomplished hospital associates, all committed to your good health. That's what you have at the Jersey City Medical Center. Make Hudson County's #1 hospital your first choice. Visit us on the web at barnabashealth.org.
Meineke Car Care, conveniently located at 700 Tunnelly Avenue, Jersey City, half a mile north of County Road. Meineke bumper-to-bumper car care. Brakes, exhaust, oil change, wheel alignments, batteries, CV joints, and so much more. First-rate service at a price you can afford. All major cards accepted. Apply for a Meineke card. Meineke, Jersey City. Stop by and let Sammy check your brakes for free.
Newport, the luxury waterfront community on the Hudson River, offers a quality of life you deserve in 10 high-rise rental towers with amenities such as the on-site Newport Path subway, light rail and ferry service, Newport Town Square, 3 playgrounds, dog run, upscale restaurants, retail giants like Sears, JCPenney, Macy's, and Target. Morton Williams Supermarket is just outside your front door. A health and fitness club, spa, skating rink, and medical facilities are also on site. NewportNJ.com. Enjoy the New York skyline from Newport Town Square. Manhattan is just one path stop away or quick ride through the Holland Tunnel. Nursery and private elementary schools all on site. 12-screen movie theater at the Newport Center Mall. Want to visit Newport? Stay at the Westin or Marriott Hotel. Go to NewportNJ.com for details. Newport has luxurious towers, great restaurants, shopping, New York skyline views, schools, playgrounds, a marina and yacht club, gym, spa, fine wine, fine living. It's incredible. It's you. NewportNJ.com. Newport. Live like you want.
Panna Pinto Properties, Jersey City. Shaping the workplace with state-of-the-art office spaces that address your company desires. Building residences that define your home environment. Adjacent to all modes of transportation with on-site parking available. The right address, the right lease. Call 201-521-9000 or visit online at pannapintoproperties.com. Panna Pinto Properties, building Jersey City for everyone.
Plaza Auto Body, 700 Tunnelly Avenue in Jersey City. Your local collision specialist. Body and fender repair. On-site oven-baked paintwork. Fiberglass repair experts. Custom and classic car restoration. All insurance is welcome. 24-hour towing available. Licensed by the state of New Jersey. Plaza Auto Body, 700 Tunnelly Avenue, 201-222-3050. Plaza Auto Body, your bumper-to-bumper buddy.
Welcome back to the Ward E Council debate brought to you by Hudson Media Group. We have our 4 candidates and we are going to continue the questions. We're going to get a little tougher here, just for fun, okay? I don't know, sort of a two-part question. Mayor didn't endorse any of you guys. One, how do you feel about that? And then two-part, what do you agree with Phillips' policies, and what do you disagree about them? And I think we're supposed to start with Nick.
I think me, yeah. Well, as far as Mayor Phillips' endorsement of a candidate goes, I think that, you know, we're very qualified candidates, so it could be hard for him to choose somebody. So I'll have to respect his decision on that. And as far as, you know, if I had to grade the mayor on downtown Jersey City, I'll look at downtown because that's specifically to where I'm from and where I live. You know, again, looking at the progress that was made, especially when he was a council person, you know, I'd give him a B+. I think overall, downtown has improved quite a bit, and I think we have a lot to be proud of.
Thank you. Rebecca?
I don't really have a comment on why the mayor chose not to endorse a candidate. I don't have any inside knowledge on that. I'm running independently. I'm happy to do so. And in terms of things that I agree with and disagree, I mean, I think we really missed an opportunity in downtown Jersey City in terms of affordable housing. My background is in affordable housing, and when I look at all of the new building that's happened and the fact that very few of those buildings contain any units of affordable housing, I think that's a huge missed opportunity. But I have hope in other areas. The mayor has indicated a commitment to safe and complete streets. I think that that's a really important issue facing downtown in the fact that people's lives are at stake. And I believe that if the city council going forward is going to pay the schools their fair share of revenue from the tax abatement, that is also a step in the right direction.
Thank you. Jay?
Al, as far as a compliment to the mayor's last 4 years, I was very impressed when he implemented City Bike, and he said it's either citywide or it's nowhere when the push was to just start at downtown. I think that sent an important message to the southern part of the city, and I think to some extent it was brave because he did need corporate participation in that agreement, and he did kind of stick to his guns in that. However, on what I disagree with him I don't think a minute 30 is enough, but just to kind of give you the rundown, Steve started running for governor almost immediately. In fact, that summer, I had the privilege of running the Progressive Board of Education candidates in the fall of 2013 after having done it in 2012. And when I worked closely with the JCDO chairman and Steve's office during that campaign, it was very clear it was a full sprint toward Drumthwacket in Princeton. They were even talking about successors for the mayor. And I was kind of like a lot of the other people downtown. I said, hey, wait a minute, what about the last 8 years that we all just spent moving you forward? His policy changed. He started getting in the way of reform in the schools. Dr. Lyles, he stood in her way because he wanted to cozy up to the statewide teachers union for his gubernatorial bid. As a former public defender, some of the things he has said about criminal justice I find offensive and closed-minded. He kind of took on criminal justice reform, even though that is a data-driven policy that helps people of all socioeconomic classes. And he's too cozy with developers. He had a secret PAC across the river that accepted upwards of millions of dollars from developers. And he really should have been focusing that energy on Jersey City. And now he's back. He doesn't look like he's enjoying it. Looks like a teenager that got dressed up for the prom and ended up at the matinee at the movies. And he's just kind of going through the motions. And so I will not be voting for him on November 7th.
Thank you.
So I am not part of the sort of backroom conversations, the cigar smoking, the whatever happens in Jersey City politics. So I have no clue what the mayor is thinking. I have no clue why he has not chosen to endorse people, but kind of might secretly have some people that he is at least more fond of. What I can tell you is that I'm incredibly proud of running a truly independent campaign. Our slogan is unbought and unbought. And we are truly not reporting to anyone. We are advocating for you. My only boss in this campaign, and if I win on the council, will be you. But to the point of the mayor's record, there's certain things that he deserves credit for. I certainly believe, for example, that we started his term with the biggest disparity between our police force in terms of race in the community it served, and he has made significant progress on that point. I strongly agreed with his sanctuary city order, although I wish he went further and challenged our county to end their voluntary partnership with ICE. But fundamentally, where the mayor has failed is in the area of development and in the area of political donations that Jake just mentioned. We have missed this incredible opportunity downtown to build a livable city that is with density, right? So we haven't planned for the infrastructure. We've given out the long-term tax breaks. And in that process, there was $3.4 million donated to the mayor's super PAC, including secret donations. I am particular to the one that Jared Kushner made. Right? He made a $100,000 donation that was laundered through a nonprofit to conceal their identity. Right? That is simply not good, clean government, and it's something that we have to change.
Okay, that's the four of you for that. All right, I'm going to follow up with this. Mentioned affordable housing in the downtown. The question is, what does affordable mean? And, how do you attain it do people who, isn't it based on the median income of the area? And so affordable in one part of the city is not the same as affordable in another. And so how do you make living downtown affordable for everybody? And we'll start with Rebecca.
Of course. So there's a couple ways that we can do affordable housing in Ward E in particular. So the first one is like the least sexy one, so no one ever brings it up, and that's preserving affordable housing that already exists. So some of our longer-term renters and owners, they live in apartments or houses that are naturally occurring affordably. The longevity in the rental market pays. Some of these people are protected by rent control statutes, and the most important thing that we can do in terms of getting the biggest bang for our buck is making sure those people have access to legal services and information about their rights as a tenant. New Jersey has some of the strongest protections for tenants of any state in the country, and yet many people don't realize that they have a lifelong right to a renewal lease, and so when the landlord tells them to go, they go. I actually care a lot about this issue. Over 4 years ago, I got involved in building and expanding a nonprofit here in Hudson County that provides free legal help to tenants. Another idea that I've proposed is a senior citizen rent increase freeze. So it would operate similar as the senior freeze for real estate taxes, but for rents. We want our seniors who are living on a fixed income, who have been living in their apartments in our community for decades, to be able to stay. Another piece of that is making sure that we can use the Affordable Housing Trust funds creatively to give people emergency loans when temporary financial hardships get in the way of being able to pay that rent bill, because it's much cheaper to keep that person in their apartment than to give them affordable housing later. But that doesn't mean we can't build affordable housing in downtown Jersey City. I feel strongly that Jersey City needs an inclusionary zoning law, also known as affordable housing set-asides, that any new building that is built that's receiving a tax abatement has a mandatory obligation to have affordable units in it. Affordable housing advocates often ask for 20%. I think that's a good bar to try to hit. I think if we're talking about permanently affordable housings, the percentage could potentially be lower or higher depending upon the area median income. But I think that we need specifically target a wide range of incomes. So you're right, Al, that affordable housing is typically tied to AMI. But we should be doing affordable housing for very low income people, but also low and moderate.
I have to cut you off. Thank you.
I could talk about this all day. I love affordable housing. It's my bread and butter.
Jake.
Al, I am supportive of the pending legislation by Councilwoman Joyce Waterman that has an 80-20 split. I believe that's Ordinance 17-170. If it isn't voted on before January, I look forward to voting for it next year. I'm also the only candidate in this race talking about workforce housing. We can work with developers through the abatement process to contemplate artist work-live space, which is particularly relevant in the vibrant arts community downtown, as well as police and fire housing and teacher housing. Newark has had some experiment with this in the teacher village, and there's no reason why we can't have a dialogue about bringing it to Jersey City. I also stand strong on rent control reform. Right now, Jersey City rent control only applies to 5 or more units. I would support legislation to bring that down to a fewer number of units. And I also talk about lobbying the next year's administration to expanding the services of the Landlord-Tenant Relations Office, which really should and can act as an ombudsman of sorts between renters and landlords. And I would like to fight to make sure they have the resources to do that. I'm a proud renter myself. Downtown is getting hard to live in, and it shouldn't be that way. And so I, particularly as somebody who's spent their career fighting for indigent people, this is something I care very deeply about, and I'll fight to keep downtown affordable when I'm councilperson.
Thank you. Jim.
The failure to properly enforce the rent ordinances, the rent control ordinances downtown, is infuriating. I'll give you an example. I was canvassing in Van Voorst, and I spoke with a couple that's lived in a rent-controlled unit for over 20 years. And they took me into their kitchen and their bathroom, and they showed me a cockroach infestation. And they said for 8 months, they have told their landlord about it, and their landlord has refused to address it. The landlord is hoping, right, that these people aren't going to get access to legal resources, that he can force them out and then rent that apartment at top dollar without properly following the rules. And so I think both Rebecca and Jake mentioned, we are failing to enforce these laws, right? Our office has been terrible Jersey City Together, the community organizing group, called out the specific failure to enforce laws with trendy management, which is their actual name. So it's an incredible problem. We have to do better. To the larger point of affordable housing, we must build more affordable housing in downtown Jersey City. We learned that over the last 4 years, only 173 affordable housing units have been built citywide, despite thousands of actual constructed units. That is not good enough. So we have to do better. We do better by demanding more from developers, putting more on site. I'm proud in my previous government experience to have actually designed an affordable housing plan in the state of Massachusetts. It allowed families with housing vouchers to use them to move to better neighborhoods so their kids could get access to better schools. So diving into the details of affordable housing is going to be crucial over the next 4 years, because if we don't, we've already missed an incredible opportunity, and if we don't do it in the next 4 years, that opportunity is going to be gone.
Thank you. Nick?
I think realistically, it's a little difficult to build affordable housing downtown because of the high real estate values. I'm a business owner, small business owner, and I've spoken to a few friends who are in business as well, and builders, and some smaller developers about how do you build more affordable housing. And they've all said the same thing, is that, with high property values downtown, it sometimes just doesn't work. However, I think we can hold larger developers accountable and hopefully get them to build more. I like the 80-20 that Joyce was proposing, but again, I don't know all the details behind that, so I don't want to say, yes, I think that's something that I could support, but it is a big problem. I also believe that lowering the rent control units from 5 to maybe 3 is a good idea, to try to keep some of the people who are in our buildings right now there so that they can afford it there. So it's a very touchy and difficult situation, but I think it's something that we must look at and we must fight for, but I don't want to make empty promises.
Thank you. So from that to another tough question, parking and the use of cars. And this is significant all over the city, but particularly downtown. I know that there's this perception that we can use public transportation and bikes as a way to help, but in truth, people drive cars and they park cars, and the system down there it's very confusing. What kinds of proposals would you have to help the parking situation? I think we need to start with
Jake.
I think it's me.
Jake, it's your turn.
I think it's me.
Parking.
I thought you did affordable housing, but I could be.
Oh, I did. I love affordable housing. That's why. Sorry.
Fair enough. I would start by suggesting we do a parking audit citywide. Hoboken had a parking issue, and to some extent still does, for a very long time. Their first step in solving the problem was a parking audit. I think that would assess the situation in Jersey City and give us recommendations for the best way to proceed forward. I think there's something to also be said for the fact that as we build, we need to keep in mind that if you build for people who are going to bring cars, people who are going to bring cars come here. And if you build for people who aren't going to bring cars, people who work in the city, people who commute, those are the kind of people you're going to attract. We need to keep in mind that Jersey City's population right now is nowhere near where it was in 1930. We're about where it was in 1970. These issues aren't new. We can attract people that want to live here, that want to commute into the city, that don't bring cars with them. And that's all in the development that we engage in. But for the folks that do have cars, I understand they're not going to be getting rid of them anytime soon. So let's do that parking audit. Let's figure the best way to solve this problem. And I do think what I will say is we need to get serious about enforcement. Mayor Fulop's disbandment of the parking authority did not have the effect that he promised us it would. I know from experience downtown of family and friends visiting that enforcement is not the way it was before his tenure. So we need to get enforcement strict again. And I'll fight for that audit when I'm on the council. So those two immediate steps, and then the long term of building for people who may not bring cars with them.
Thank you. James.
To say that the merging of the park authority didn't work is an understatement of epic proportions. For over a year, there wasn't a working telephone number, and you had to call someone's 917 cell and hope that they answered. I appreciate the willingness of this person to offer their cell phone to us, but this is simply not how the government of a modern American city should run. So we have to start with reforming the parking authority. We do that by improving the data collection of that authority. They struggle to tell us how many cars are permitted per house, right? How many people might have 5 or 6 cars just associated with one unit. They struggle downtown to enforce the residential parking permits. And I know that for years they didn't, and then just about 3 or 4 months ago they restarted, and they were issuing an incredible amount of tickets a day to people who are parking downtown, commuting on the path, and then coming back without that residential parking permit. Reforming the parking authority will significantly improve parking issues. Now, there are sort of genuine struggles as we make downtown a denser place, so we have to make that investment in alternatives. In Hoboken, they invested in car sharing. Now, downtown, I think, is a pretty good comparable to Hoboken. When they invested in that subsidized car sharing, the number of cars registered in Hoboken dropped by 3,000 over about a 3-year period. That is the type of reform that we need to engage in Jersey City, and just be as creative as we can be to address people's reasonable concerns on this issue.
Thank you. Nick.
I smile because I go back to the grade I gave the mayor, and I'm reminded of some of these negative issues that came up. Yeah. So I think I have to downgrade that to a B-. So, those are real issues. I know enforcement's a major issue, but this is the #1 issue I've said I'm going to tackle when I get elected, because traffic drives me crazy. I drive. I walk a little bit, but I drive for the most part. I think what we need downtown is a comprehensive traffic study, because we are dealing with streets that were built over 100 years ago, and now we have all of these extra people here driving and walking, and it's physically just not possible for all these cars to fit in those streets. So if we can do a traffic study and find what's the best ways to get from A to Z, we could potentially, improve pedestrian safety. There's a lot of things that we can do if we just hire an outside firm to come in, take a look at everything, and make suggestions on how we can make changes. As far as parking goes, I think the zone parking stickers doesn't work anymore. Quite honestly, I think we should just have a downtown zone, and that's it. So that there's no zone 1, zone 2, zone 3. Make all one zone downtown. We have to have a permit to park there if you're a resident. And as far as enforcement goes, which is the biggest issue, that there is none, if we have to utilize the staff that we currently have, well, then we could do targeted random enforcement zones. And hopefully by enforcing the parking laws as far as double parking and parking on corners and people parking without permits, we can hopefully deter them from doing it once they get a few tickets.
So I don't own a car. I've lived in Jersey City car-free, but I empathize with people who have cars, people who need to commute outside of the city to sort of western and suburban New Jersey, especially young families who need cars. And so I understand that's a real issue for people. I think we need a data-driven parking policy that prioritizes residents. While I don't have a car, I do live a few blocks away from the pedestrian plaza where there's a big restaurant and entertainment district. And I notice in the mornings on Saturday, early in the morning when I walk the dog, that there are parking spots everywhere. And what that tells me is that the people who are parking on our streets are people who are visiting our restaurants and our bars and our nightlife areas, and they're driving there. And I think that's a public safety concern because I'm worried about people drinking and driving. But I have to tell you, we have a lot of parking downtown. I did a sort of unscientific personal audit of available parking on a Friday night, and there's empty garages, empty parking garage after garage after garage on Marin Boulevard. So what can we do to think creatively about the fact that there are parking spots that already exist, and how do we get people who are visiting our city to park there? Now, I actually met with the small business community, and many of them are very interested in pursuing a parking validation program, potentially working with the city to make physical improvements to those parking garages and the path from the parking garage to the dining entertainment districts more welcoming and safe, well lit. So I think there's creative ways to use the parking that we have currently. And then, I think that we need to use dynamic pricing for parking. I think that parking has value, and while we want our residents parking in the streets, other people who are parking our streets potentially should be paying more money. I've seen a lot of misuse of short-term street closure permits that people get to use them for construction site parking. So I think there's a lot of areas where we can use legislative reform to more narrowly tailor our current parking policy until we get that study due to the data-driven policy that we need.
Thank you. That is my big problem in the city. All right, this one, you've all alluded to this, some more strongly, so we're going to probably our last question before we go to the summations. Ethics in government. Hudson County is notorious for corruption. There have been quite a few scandals over every 10 years or so. We have a major scandal, but Mayor Fulop came in as a reformer. Okay, and as we get along, there's things showing that inside this government, some of the same behavior still exists, or at least is alluded to. The most recent was the tapes about, and there was before that, so you were talking about Super PAC. As council person, what can you do to make sure that we have an ethical government? And I think we had to start with
me,
James. Yes.
So, this issue could not be more important for the future of Jersey City, and I think honestly the future of our country. We have lost trust and faith in government, and I think part of what drives me and got me interested in local government was the sense that local government is that place to build trust, right? That we can solve problems. We can solve the basic problems of your potholes, but we can touch upon some of these bigger, more structural challenges, education, gun violence, things that really tear our community apart. So this could not be a more important issue. So I'm proud to have taken a number of important ethical stands that may have hurt my ability to win this election, but were the right thing to do. So I'm proud to have called for the release of the tape in question that Al referenced, right? A tape that potentially shows rigging of contracts, the exact type of stuff that we thought we got rid of potentially 4 years ago. I'm proud to have made a promise not to take donations from real estate developers in this campaign. I have in fact returned donations from real estate developers throughout the process. But even more importantly, I am genuinely independent from any outside forces, right? Folks that might put in money into super PACs, right? Again, $3.4 million that went into our city in the last 4 years. Okay? I'm independent from those forces. There will be no outside PACs spending money on my behalf. I'm genuinely politically independent, and my commitment and promise to you is ethical government. You will always know where I am. You can always find me. You can always ask me tough questions. I will be here for you, and I will work to rebuild that trust in government.
Thank you. Nick?
Sometimes that stigma of being, born and raised in Jersey City and Hudson County politics all kind of comes to the table every time someone hears that you're running for office. And the funny part is it's true, unfortunately. It's been a part of our history, and it's soured a lot of people. I think you have to look at the person who's running and, say to yourself, do I trust that person? I'm running because I'm a community organizer, I'm a funeral director, I'm an organist at a church. I mean, you can't really get more honest than me, but I think it's something that is real in politics, and it's something that has come out recently, and if you're innocent, then you have nothing to hide. Very simple. So I think if there's nothing to hide in those tapes, then they should be released. I have to agree with James on that one. But hopefully, we can do away with all this backdoor deals and crooked politics. And I'm honestly running downtown to fill your potholes and fix your parks. So I'm not looking to make deals with anybody. I just want things done and get them done. That's all I want to do.
Thank you. Rebecca?
I think this is the most important question of the election, actually, and it's why I have made the cornerstone of my campaign about government accountability. I'm the only candidate who's recommended that we pursue publicly funded elections. I think taking money out of politics is important. I've gone above and beyond in terms of being open about who, about meeting my obligations to report my donors, filing an ELEC report when I wasn't obligated to do so based on the time frame of when I got in the race. But I think that taking money out of politics is the answer. And I've proposed a tangible way to do this. It's a small dollar matching program. It will magnify the power of grassroots donations so that regular people who are donating to local elected officials or candidates for public office have the same opportunities to make a meaningful impact in a campaign. It'll also allow us to create limits on how much people raise and spend on elections, and also allow a diverse representation for a diverse city. We want to encourage more people to run for office. But the reality is, people of modest means, a lot of people from diverse communities, young people, can't raise the money that you need to run for office. So, you know, Jersey City already has one of the strictest pay-to-play laws in the state of New Jersey that prohibits donations from developers. I want to take that one step further. And with regards to the tape, I've actually called for more than just releasing it. I want the tape to go to the prosecutor's office and for there to be a formal investigation.
Very good. Thank you. Jake?
Al, I don't, and I never have, and I hope to never consider myself a politician. I am a young lawyer who cares about his community, and that's why I hopped in this race. By far, the greatest thrill of my life so far has been being a lawyer, going into court and telling stories for those who have their back against the wall to judges and juries. I've done it with honor. I've done it with distinction from the bench and the bar alike. And now I want to bring that backbone and that honor and integrity to the council. You know, when we all had our first forum last June, Mayor Steve Fulop showed up and he sat there. And I said out loud to him in my introduction, Mayor Fulop, I'm disappointed in you. And I said it right to his face. And I think the takeaway is, I'm not afraid. Integrity means a lot to me. So when I'm on the council, if I see somebody doing something wrong, I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to point it out. I'm not going to turn my back on the way my parents raised me. And that's just the kind of integrity I'm going to bring to the council. So ethics is important to me. I've lived it my whole life, and I will live it as a council person. And I really am the only person up here who has even identified who they're voting for in the mayoral election. And that's because I want folks to know where I stand. That's the integrity that I've had in the courtroom for 7 years, and it's the integrity that I'll bring to the council in January.
Thank you. We're going to go with concluding remarks. We're just going straight in the order. Closing remarks. Yes, you first.
Absolutely. So first I just want to say when Nick said that he's extremely honest, that is true. I can vouch for that. So I just want to close with this. You know, we've had a really great exchange of ideas. Again, thank you to Pat, Hudson Media Group, Al for the debate, and fellow candidates. I think we stayed substantive. We beat the very low bar of the Republican presidential campaign of 2016. But I do want to take a step back and just tell you how I got into public service, or what keeps me in it is probably more accurate. So I mentioned that I worked for the city of Boston, and I was there during the marathon bombing attacks of 2013. And on that day, I drove into City Hall to work. After it happened, I ended up in our call center. We didn't know what was happening, complete and total blackout of information. And then all of a sudden, our mayor got on TV, and he said, if you're missing a relative or a loved one, I want you to call this number. And he said the number, and it was the call center. And none of us had any idea it was coming. And there was complete silence like in a movie. And then every phone started to ring 5 seconds later. It was a tough night, and then the next day I got tasked with working with the small businesses that had been closed due to the FBI investigation, how we could provide services and support for those folks. And what I learned from that experience was two things. First, that I said earlier, government makes a difference. You can build trust, but you can deliver competency, and people can trust that you're going to government can make your life better. But the second was that you need to bring capable, talented people into government that have expertise in City Hall and strong moral principles. And we saw that in Boston's strong response that day. And I believe you have that choice in this race. You do have a number of good choices, but I believe that I'm the candidate with the experience in city government and the expertise in city government and the sort of moral courage to reform our city in this race. So tonight I'm asking for your vote and your support on ballot position 11C. Thank you.
Thank you. Nick?
So once again, I want to thank Pat and Al for moderating, and also to my other running mates for being here with us tonight and exchanging some of our ideas on what we think is the best for Ward E. As I said before, you know, I'm running because this is where I grew up. I've been involved in this community for the better part of my life, and I love this community. I've been in every fabric of it. I've been involved in running festivals, parades, you know, cultural organizations. As a funeral director, I've served thousands of families in Jersey City. And it was all done with love, but it was done with love because this is where my heart always was and still is. I think that one thing people need to learn about me is that I'm a compromiser. I'm a listener. That goes back to being a funeral director. And we have pretty simple problems downtown. Problems that I think can be solved quite easily if somebody just focuses on them and takes away any aspirations for higher office. They can all be solved. They're relatively easy. So my promise as a councilman is that I will remember that my #1 job is to serve the residents and improve the quality of life of downtown residents. That's all I want to do. I have no aspirations for anything further than this. I just want to serve downtown Jersey City, the area that I grew up in and that I love dearly. So on November 7th, I ask you to vote for Grillo, ballot 7C.
Thank you. Rebecca?
Thanks. So I will echo everyone's appreciation for having been invited and getting to participate in this debate. I'm running for city council because I want to protect what makes downtown a vibrant, dynamic place to live. That means protecting laws that are passing laws that protect the people who live here and also our small independent businesses and supporting our arts community. And it also means negotiating a fair deal with developers to make sure that they are investing in our city and so that we are getting the things that we need to flourish. New schools, investment in our infrastructure, our transportation, more resilient buildings. So I was inspired to public service because of my parents. My mom ran for school board in my hometown successfully and later served as a city councilwoman. My dad was the director of planning and development of our small town. And I would go to the supermarket with them on Saturdays. And when constituents would come up to them and talk about, you know, something that was concerning them about the town when we were in the supermarket aisle, you know, they would take the time to talk through that issue, even though they had an impatient 7-year-old at their side. And that's the kind of city council person I'm going to be. I quit my full-time job and I have pledged to be a full-time city council person, to give this the time and attention that it deserves. And I'm going to be available to you to answer your questions and concerns and also to build the relationships that are necessary to be an effective legislator in Jersey City. So my ballot position is 1C. I hope that you'll consider voting for me on Tuesday, November 7th. Thank you.
Thank you. Last but not least.
Yes, I too want to extend my gratitude to you, Al, to Pat, and everybody here working hard at the Hudson Media Group tonight. And to the folks at home, I started tonight by saying that this is an exciting time for downtown Jersey City. I don't think that's in dispute. But we do have serious problems facing Jersey City. And I think the array of topics we've talked about in the last 90 minutes leaves that not in question either. I've lived in Jersey City for 12 years, and as I've pointed out, I've worked in the courts of the city and the county, and I've stood up for the voiceless. I've been in the trenches and the front lines of education reform as a campaign manager for Board of Education candidates. And when you look at these problems facing Jersey City, I ask the folks of downtown to elect somebody who has a strong backbone and is ready on day one and knows what they're going to do on day one. That's the consistent vision that I've been talking about all summer. It's the vision I talk about when I knock on doors. I talk about responsible development. That's affordability. That's abatement reform. That's green initiatives and infrastructure, and I talk about taking on the Port Authority because no task is too large when you have a backbone like mine. And that's my message. I think I'm the one to bring downtown forward. I encourage people at home to go to downtownforward.com and learn more about me and my campaign. Please vote for Jake Hudnut, 3C. And if I haven't knocked on your door yet, I will before November 7th, and I look forward to meeting you, and I hope I earn your vote.
Thank you very much. This has been a Ward E debate, and you've heard from the four candidates. They are all very interesting. I'm Al Sullivan from the Hudson Reporter. Thank you very much.